Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our bi-weekly EHS Coffee and Compliance webinar, where we chat with thought leaders and regulators about emerging issues, career development, case studies, and much, much more. Today, we'll be talking to Maria about her about her work as an environmental health and safety manager at Trojan Batteries, which was her last company. And she'll be discussing her EHS perspective on the call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we know that everybody on our call has some great questions for us as usual, so we are going to be saving the last 5 minutes to open up the discussion to you. So if you do have questions for Maria this morning, feel free to submit your questions using the questions option in your control panel, and we'll try to ask them before the end of the webinar, but we'll let you know, and definitely let us know all the questions that you have.
And as always, before we jump into things, we just like to take a second to introduce ourselves. My name is Celine. I'm a customer success manager here at Mapestry.
And my name is Jillian, and I'm the compliance solutions manager. And Celine and I work in the customer experience team here at Mapestry. And for everyone new on our call today and are new to Mapestry, we're an environmental compliance platform on the software side for industrial facilities. Mapestry focuses on providing transparency, promoting collaboration, ensuring efficiency, and finally creating accountability for all of your compliance obligations.
Yep, we are a data-driven platform that helps companies analyze, track all of their environmental compliance needs in one system. Cool. With that, Maria, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to have you here and hear your perspective on the EHS industry and your career. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Definitely. Yeah, we're very excited to chat with you this morning. So with that, we are going to go ahead and jump into some questions. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and start. And we always like to ask our speakers firstly if you can introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself, additionally your career path, and especially your most recent role too at Trojan Battery.
All right, so I'm going to start. Well, so I started, well, my education background is I have a bachelor's in science in chemical engineering, and then I worked for a little bit. Then I decided I wanted to go back to school, and I got my master in science on civil and environmental engineering. So that's where my professional career started. I started working as a quality engineer. I think I got the job offer because I had internship working as a quality engineer on semiconductor industry. And you know, they were searching resumes and look for the word quality. So somehow I got recruited for quality, which, you know, for General Mills, and I wanted to stay in California, and it was really close to my house, and I decided, you know, why not? I worked before I graduated, and then I joined, you know, industry, which was kind of something my family, I didn't have any engineers on my family, or never really exposed to industry. Like, I mean, you know, besides like what you imagine industry may be like when you were small, but never really crossed my mind that I was going to end up working on industry. But, you know, I went to the internship, and then it was really good. I really liked it. It was a clean room. I learned a lot actually about semiconductors and so forth. But then I got recruited for General Mills, which it was food. But, you know, it was a really good experience for me because General Mills, huge company, very good company. So they have you new hires as what is called, they have a rotation program. So you started as a quality engineer, but you had to have a rotation on operations. So I was a team lead for, you know, for a year, which means like you're running production, you know, running the team that you know, that makes the product. And so it was a very good experience for me, like about throughput and output and so forth. I also had to work like third shift, you know, second shift for like a while, and then third shift for a while. So, you know, they make you, I don't know if suffer, but let's say more, you know.
That was working at nighttime, or?
Yeah, so I worked, you know, for 6 months from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. And then from 6 months, I worked from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Wow. So that was, you know, a little bit challenging and different.
Mhm.
It has its good things and bad things, because working first shift is also has its challenge. People may think it's their time to work, which at the end of the day, that's what I prefer. But it does come with, you have management there all the time. All the problems get solved there. You get volunteered for a lot more projects. Versus when you work second on third shift, sometimes you can be unnoticed, right? Because you're so pros and cons like everything in life. But I was in General Mills for almost 3 years, and then I um, wanted to like go back and work like something with the environment. I have done undergraduate research at UCLA on the environmental department. So I kind of, and I will go and take samples and, analyze things. So I thought, that was like, if I was to go to school for the environment, that would be like my life, like afterwards. So
Yeah.
I applied for my master's and I got in, and I did civil and environmental because that's where I was doing that type of research. And life works in mysterious ways, because I was also applying for jobs as consultant, as an environmental engineer. At the same time, I was applying for a school, and things happen, right? Like once I get accepted to school, then the job as consultant just comes up. So I go to the interview, and this gentleman is asking me, like, are you planning to, go back to school? And I'm like, actually, I'm in school now. So I ended up doing my master's while I was working as an environmental consultant, part-time. I was working part-time, studying full-time while I was getting my master's.
Wow.
So that was challenging, but it was, yes, but it was also very good because, like, for example, I took a lot of classes in industrial wastewater. And I was working with a client that I was helping them improve, so I could like see the theory and the science behind it. And then I was helping with this knowledge applying to clients. So it worked out perfectly. And then I did that for a while, like almost 3 years as well. And then I had this client that I used to go very often because he had lots of troubles. So then this client, the plant manager of that company, he moved to Trojan Battery company. And then he started saying, Isabel, I have the job for you. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, we need a EHS manager. And I'm like, yeah, but I just had a baby, a 1-year-old baby. I was like, I've been in industry and know what it's about. Maybe I'll be back in consulting. Yeah, he's like, Isabel, no, but this job is, it's perfect for you, because it was like Trojan Battery was a work that, it was like a job that I have already done pretty much. So I knew what I needed to do. So he convinced me, and then I went, interviewed, they got me the job, and I was there for a little bit over 3 years. So I think 3 years and 3 months, and I just left. Last Friday was my last day. But that's kind of like my career path, and how I ended up being an EHS manager.
That's an awesome career path, and a lot of hard work, it sounds like, went into that. So amazing. Thank you for sharing. And kind of off that same point, when did you first hear about the EHS industry? Was it while you were consulting, or did you hear about it a little earlier on?
Actually, when I joined General Mills, there was an EHS manager. I was younger. I was younger, so I always really like his role. They have it a little bit separate because they have the safety manager, and then they had the environmental manager. And I like the safety because when you're in industry, you have to be part of safety. But I really like the environmental manager part because he was always involved in sustainability projects, efficiency projects for the wastewater treatment. And secretly, I was like, that's the job I want, Which, when I told my boss at the time, when I talked to my boss, at the time, I was like, I'm going back to school because I really want to do this. And he's like, why you never told me? I was like, oh, I felt bad because I was young. That's something that you learn, in every job, you learn something. So, General Mills was a really good company. You will tell them what you want to do. They will tell you what they would like you to do, and they'll try to find to work, but at least they'll know where you want to go, and they'll help you, right? They'll put a path through you. It was a very structured company, which it was really nice. But, I never told him. So when I told him, he's like, why you never told me? I was like, well, I felt bad because I didn't want to tell you, yeah, I like my job, but I want that job, right? Because I felt like it was a bad thing to do, but realistically, something that I learned. But that's, so I always liked environment. And I guess that undergraduate research, and then, I like to think like when they interview me for Trojan, they ask me like, are you like a hippie, that wants to like protect the world? I was like, maybe not that radically that way, but I do like to think that my job helps prevent pollution. So at the bottom line, right? Like I do a lot more. But, just for example, at Trojan, we implemented a stormwater treatment system, that I know the levels of pollution has decreased. I know that all those mitigation, we can see we have letting air monitoring. So I know we have decreased. So realistically, I do like to know that at the end of the day, you're doing something good for the environment, good for the company, but also for the environment. So yeah, I am kind of an environmentalist, I guess. But yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how I ended up being, I kind of like the concept of being, helping the environment, like decreasing pollution, I guess. And then I like to be outdoors a lot.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be a lot more of outdoor. Of course, when you're in industry, that outdoor is, unless you're doing inspections for the stormwater and, doing inspections for something, that's as much you're going to be outdoors.
Right.
But I also like the idea of being able to doing walks, plans, compliance, and be more active like that.
Yeah, definitely. And so in your like day-to-day role at Trojan, in general as EHS manager, but yeah, at Trojan, what was that kind of like?
So, at Trojan, it was different because it has changed. My job, my role changed a lot. First of all, because when I joined there, it was kind of like they were in trouble. They were, they have come up, a rule has come out. They were not properly prepared for the rule, so they got themselves in trouble because they were not meeting some of the regulations. On the air front, on the stormwater front. So when they hired me, they were in desperate need of somebody that would and understand the rule and understands the solution on how to comply with the rule. So at the beginning, it was all about that. It was, finding the gaps. I did a gap review, find all the, revise all the permit, looks at all the conditions, make sure that we have, we're covered for that. Finding permits, modifying permits that were outdated, machinery that it was like, where is the permit? Is this or this, So I just put in order that department, and then, creating a compliance calendar, right? Assigning to the team different, so at the beginning it was all that. It was just, gap analysis, finding the gaps and closing the gaps. Creating procedures, implementing procedures, making sure those procedures are followed and so forth. So that was at the first, I would say, 2 years. That's what I did.
Okay.
And then after that, I already kind of like had implemented all the gaps. So now it was kind of maintaining, which it was working very good. And then the last year, it kind of like, actually with COVID and everything, there was that Trojan was creating lots of products. It's a company that is doing very good and is growing. So a lot of my role was more on the side, maintaining my job, but day to day, what I was doing the most, it was being the EHS support for many projects they have. A lot of application projects. We're bringing a much better air pollution control device. So a lot of big projects, big tickets. So I had to be on meetings, listening to what is going to be, the safety precautions. And, so it kind of like more of my role, because that's how it is, you're doing whatever the company needs you to do. So at the beginning, it was just implementing and correcting everything. Then that was kind of like maintaining it. And then they added all those projects.
Yeah, and so as far as Trojan being battery manufacturing, like how does EHS impact Trojan as a battery? Like what types of regulations and stuff? would be
So
involved?
I have a lot of friends that are EHS managers, and and I have met many EHS. And one thing I have noticed is that the lead industry, I know, and because as a consultant, I was exposed to many industries. The lead industry, battery manufacturing or lead recycling, like the lead industry, or actually companies that work with lots of lead, they're highly regulated. Highly regulated because of the toxicity of lead.
Yeah.
So, in addition to all the hazards that you encounter on many firms, in many industries, the machinery, the local tagao, the electric hazards, fall protections, all of the hazards that normal industry has. In addition to that, you have the lead, which makes it a lot more complicated because there is a huge OSHA standard about lead that requires you to have, ambient monitoring. It requires you to have personal monitoring, blood biological monitoring. In addition to that, at least on the South Coast Air Quality Management District, the rules, the 1420 rules, are for lead are kind of like the most stringent rules there are. There's rule of how you have to perform housekeeping. There's rule of how you have to, do maintenance. There's rules about, so very, very, very regulated. So, for me, it was normal, like I say, normal, interact with inspectors all the time. I was doing inspection, through an inspection, providing paperwork for the inspections, making sure, so I think the lead industry, the EHS role, it's, like, this is what I will tell when I was hiring a specialist or people to come to help me, is like, if you like EHS, the lead industry is like a playground. I mean, name the hazard, we have it. So it's really like, you learn about everything. You learn about, like, personal exposure, control, mitigation controls, even, we had a nurse inside, occupational nurse. We were drawing blood from our employees. So it is, the EHS role is critical on the lead industry.
Yeah, that's impressive that you guys are able to handle all of that. I guess my biggest question for you is, how do you stay up on top of all those regulations and all those changes, especially to an industry that's so highly regulated and monitored?
So one thing you have to do, and one thing I did, it was like my compliance calendar. Have a compliance calendar, because there's so many things going on, so many things you have to comply with, that there's no way I'm going to be able to keep it all in my mind. So, I have to have a sanity check and put some time on my calendar where during this hour, I'm going to review my compliance calendar. And I'm going to see what is due this month and what is due next month. So I prepare for. So I will, go through a compliance calendar and be sending emails. Where is this data I need for this report? And of course, I don't, being the manager doesn't mean that you do it all. You assign people, ownership, you delegate. So, having the right people to make sure you can delegate. So, I'm making sure it completes, because at least what I have learned in my career is you cannot, like, for example, I will put on my compliance calendar even all those calibration records that we need, because I know when the inspection comes in, they're like, oh, okay, so you're measuring the wind velocity. Yes. Okay, so do you have a calibration record for the device that you're measuring the velocity with? So I already knew so much the inspectors that I put those little details, even the tiniest details, or, or if a new thing come up, I will add it to my compliance calendar to keep track. So that's kind of like, I use that tool very, very much, compliance calendar, because otherwise you will, things fall through the crack, because, time flies, and before you know it, the report is due. You have to submit this, we have already received the stormwater samples. You have to put it on smarts and so forth. So there's so many things, and, or you should, and also, I would use, creating meetings to remind me, like, 5 days before the 30 days, this is when you're gonna do this, Marisa. You have a meeting with the plant manager so he can submit, and, so it just takes a lot of time management and and organization, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I kind of, on that same topic, do you have any advice for young EHS professionals or young people trying to get into the EHS industry in general?
So one thing I can, tell the EHS professionals, young or not young, yes, and even tell myself, is one thing that you have to do is, you have to continue to look for the new regulations, for how things are changing. Because sometimes you can be so much, doing your job that you may not see what is coming. So,
Right.
even going through, being part of a professional, a coalition, or find yourself the best way for you to keep yourself updated of the new rules, the new things are happening. Because when you're like, managing a plan, doing so much, you may lose visibility of what is coming your way. And and I have found, as a consultant, that a lot of companies that will get in trouble, it was because of that. You become very overwhelmed with the day-to-day job, and then the new regulation, and you're not prepared. So, I think it's very important to do that. And if you cannot do it yourself, delegate, right? Try to find, if you have a specialist, or, ask, or even like the consultants that work with you, like call them once in a while. Hey, what is out there for me? What should we be looking at? Like, use all the resources you have to make sure you prepare for new regulations.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yep, and it's definitely just continuing with the regulation. Just you have to get a handle on it. You have to figure it out somehow.
And there's always something new, it may be yeah, so that's very important, because I have seen many managers, that their companies get in trouble, and themselves, of course, and and it's hard because they have worked very hard, but still, something happened. They're like, why did you not know? And you're like, well, I've been working for fixing this. So you have to use your tools. Like I would like be part of a couple of memberships, and I will make it like I'm gonna go to their monthly meetings, like make it a habit. Saying like, no, I'm sorry, I cannot go to that meeting because I have to go to this. And if they will challenge you, you tell them, well, this is how I prepare for the new regulations.
Right.
So I mean, just make it a priority, which sometimes is hard, but it's a good way for you to protect your job and your company.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really great advice for other EHS managers too, like just using something like that, like those types of resources to keep you on track, and prioritize it too.
Yeah. Even like this compliance, because you can network, if you talk to your colleagues, they may tell you, hey, and have you listened about this? And you're like, no, tell me more, I'll Google.
No. Yeah. With that, in getting back to your company in general, though, how do you ensure that we have this question? How do you ensure like all of your key stakeholders are engaged, like internally at your company, at Trojan, or wherever you are, but specifically Trojan, and externally as well?
So, I think realistically, what I have always worked for me is like, I know my regulations. So I tell them most of the time is like, this needs to happen because of this, of this, of this. And if this doesn't happen, this could be the causes, right? So when you know the regulations and the why you're doing it, you need to tell them so they understand and they are on board and they help you. And because if you just tell them, oh, this is what we have to do, but you don't tell them why, even if it's just telling the operator we have to do this check, if you just tell them you have to do and you don't tell them why, it won't be as powerful. So even if it's stakeholders or your operator taking the measurements, I always tell them the why. And sometimes I go, so when I do the stormwater training, for example, I will tell them, I will tell them why the regulation, but I will also tell them why. I will tell them because we have neighbors next door, and you have to pretend like you're living across the street from us.
Yeah.
So I always, try to take it out, even to the level is just the responsible thing to do as a good neighbor.
Yeah.
that's something, I do is like, you need to know the regulations so that way you can tell them, what backs up, why you're telling them what they need to do, where it comes from, and what could happen if we don't follow. But it usually what drives industry compliance.
Mm-hmm. It's really great insight. Thank you.
No problem.
Well, in our last couple of minutes, sorry, we just wanted to ask what you think your next adventure will be now that you've left Trojan and you're kind of on to your next step.
So that it was a hard decision, but very exciting too. So I'm leaning, I think I'm gonna go back to consulting. I really like solving problems. So I'm thinking I'm leaning forward going to consulting. And I really like the stormwater and water. I think it's probably because of my education background and because of the new permit standards and things like that. I think there's going to be a lot more industries that are going to need lots of help. So I like doing those field audits and going to the sites and learning their problems, their processes, trying to identify where the pollution comes from. So I am, I have many opportunities right now, but
Right.
the one that calls my attention is that one.
Yeah, that sounds very cool. And getting back into the like field of stormwater and wastewater too, maybe? Or
Yes, I like that. Those are the thing. Yeah, stormwater and wastewater. Yeah, that's what I like the most. I think because it has the chemistry involved, like, and so it has my chemical engineering background, which is processes and chemistry and so forth.
Right.
And then my environmental, right, like cleaning the water. I think that's a resource we need to take care of. So
Yeah. Well, that's very exciting, and I'm glad that you're changing things up and looking into consulting. I'm very excited for you, and that's really awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Definitely wishing you the best of luck on your next adventure, and we're excited to check in and see where you end up.
Well, who knows? Maybe in next year, I'll come and do an update of my new, how is everything?
That'd be
Okay,
awesome.
great. We'll go ahead and make sure to book you.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us on Coffee and Compliance, Maria. It's been amazing to hear your perspective and have you talk about everything that you've done. It's amazing. You've done so much, and you've obviously are a very hard worker. So thank you for sharing everything with us.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think this is you guys are doing a great job, and I look forward to hearing for your Coffee and Compliance bi-weekly. Now that I'll have time, I'll attend to more.
Thanks so much. We appreciate that.
You guys have a great day.
Thank you. No, you too. We're just really quickly want to let our audience know of our upcoming speaker, though. We will be hosting Erin Loza from CMEX, and she'll be chatting with us about her environmental career perspective. Very different, but also very beneficial to hear about. And yeah, so that will be on June 1st, our bi-weekly.
Yeah. And then in the meantime, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions for us, you can shoot us an email at info@mapistry.com. And thank you guys, and have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.
Thanks again, Maria. We appreciate having you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.